All right. Hello, everybody. I hope you all are doing well. Sorry I'm running a bit late today. Real life stuff came up. It happens, just the way it is. This is the NBA Tournament Strategy Show. Where on this show, we look at last night's slate, see what went well, what could have gone better. And then we, walk through this slate, look at guys that we like, potential leverage plays. On the pre-lock show at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, though, for VIP members only, link in the description if you're interested. That's where we talk through our actual leverage plays, core plays, what I'm doing on that slate, how I'm using the domination station in more detail and context. So feel free to join that if you would like to. All right, this was last night's $100,000 winning lineup. I don't think there's any surprises on here outside of one. For those of you that watched the pre-lock show, we were on all of these guys. I don't think anyone was too sneaky. Killian Hayes, we were on him. I think we had the force exposure to him. Terry Rozier, we forced exposure to. I don't recall if he was a leverage play, but we were at least around field weight. Brandon Ingram, we had forced exposure to, so that was fine. He was fine last night. He started off hot, but slowed down a lot. James Wiseman, we knew what to expect. Bigs against the Hornets. Bagley, when more news broke, we knew what to do there. Diallo, all these guys were close to core plays if they weren't core plays. The only guy we really didn't have a lot of exposure to was Jimmy Butler. We talked about it on the pre-lock show as a potential option, so it's not like we completely didn't talk about him, but I didn't have a lot of exposure. I think I had him in a few lines thanks to the domination station for popping him in there, but not enough, unfortunately. And then James Harden was a guy that we forced exposure to last night as well. So all in all, solid slate. For me, I pretty much broke even. Obviously, we were on a lot of the right calls, but I had a crap ton of LaMelo Ball. That didn't go well. And I had a crap ton of Tatum. That also didn't go well. So I'm feeling pretty optimistic for some reason. I probably shouldn't, but just because of how bad those guys did, I feel pretty solid with just kind of where things are since I had so much exposure to those guys. So all in all, okay, slate. Michael Ortiz, how did you do? You said you didn't do anything on DraftKings, but you won on FanDuel. Nice. Well, I appreciate you, man, too, for always sticking around with me. Kaboom, Wagwan. Good to see you, man. All right, guys, let's jump into this slate. We have a lot of games to get through and not a lot of time to do it. So let's go ahead and kick it off. First off, we have the Bulls against the Raptors. Lowest game total on the slate. Kind of like yesterday, like I said, I'm okay with having one-offs from this game, but at least as of right now, no one is standing out enough for me to want to really take a lot of shots on these guys. From an injury news standpoint, the Bulls have Dragic out. No one else that's really new. For Toronto, it looks like Fred VanVleet is healthy. So it looks like he's not on the injury report, so you don't have to worry about that. Koloko is questionable, but honestly, guys, Banton is doubtful. Nothing that really moves the needle for me too much. Those of you that have been around for a while, you guys know Siakam is my bias play. Like, I play him when he's low owned for a few reasons. The sim model likes him a good bit forever and always. But I don't like the matchup. It's not my favorite. Fred VanVleet playing is also not something that helps Siakam really a lot. It's really just a low ownership. I can put a 5-10% min on him and still be double the field and have some nice leverage. So I'll have Siakam exposure, but it's hard to find a really good reason to do it outside of sim model and low ownership. Jamar Richardson, nice. Thomas Dye, good to see you, man. Yeah, outside of that, I'm going to let the domination station do its thing. Pretty much Siakam and moving on. Every now and then, I'll dig a little bit deeper and be more willing to take shots on Fred VanVleet or Vucevic. They're guys I'm going to keep an eye on, but as of right now, I'm not really excited about it. Next up, we have the Lakers against the Memphis Grizzlies. This game's going to have decent ownership across the board for good reason. I don't hate it. The Lakers are pretty They have Anthony Davis listed as probable, D'Angelo Russell's listed as doubtful. So that's a boost in usage to Anthony Davis, Beasley, and Schroeder. And you're seeing ownership. We'll look a little bit closer. And of course, LeBron James is out. That's pretty major too. LeBron James is out, but I felt like everyone already knew that, but still good to mention. So that's why you're seeing decent ownership on Anthony Davis, Dennis Schroeder, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt. All of these plays make sense to me, and so I'm totally fine eating this chalk. The thing that scares me is the spread. That 9-point spread is scary because really just for Anthony Davis, I think if they can't keep this game close, he's probably one of the guys they're going to take out first. But hopefully that's not the case. The matchup with Steven Adams out is more interesting than it looks on paper, so I'm still fine taking a shot on him here. But I plan on having plenty of exposure to this game in a lot of different ways. I do want to look at the projections. Looks like they like Rory and Reeves a good bit. I need to dig a little bit deeper into that to see if I feel safe with them. But at 4 to 5% ownership, I honestly am fine having like 10 to 15%, probably not much more than that. All right, moving on. We have the Memphis Grizzlies, who aren't super high owned. JJJ, Jaren Jackson Jr., for those that don't know, center power forward eligible on DraftKings. Let's see what the sim model thinks about him at 7,700. It's a fan. It has him at 1% chance to hit 8x. It does like some other people slightly more than him. But it still thinks he's a solid play. So JJJ, if his ownership stays this low, definitely on my radar as being a potential leverage play. The thing about the Lakers is that they're not a great defensive team and they're missing guys, so they're already worse. Ja Morant is interesting. I'm not trying to fade him. I like the spot for him, but I'm not putting a 20% min on him might be a bit of a stretch for me at this point, but we'll know for certain by the pre-lock show. But definitely an interesting matchup and one to pay a little bit more attention to than some of the other studs on this slate, in my opinion. All right, next up we have another interesting game. We have the Wizards against the Hawks. Looking at the Wizards, injury news standpoint, we have Monty Morris listed as out and Porzingis listed as doubtful. That is big news. That's why we see a lot of dark green here. Bradley Beal, sim model likes him. Matchup against the Hawks doesn't scare me. 26% ownership does give me a little bit of pause, but this is one of those situations where I might be willing to go double the field still and make him a leverage play. I need to dig a little bit deeper to make sure I'm willing to stomach that kind of risk when there's so many games on the slate, but potentially open to it. Outside of that, Kuzma is definitely a very viable play in this spot as well. The guys who see the biggest boost, like of course Gafford and Avdija, see increase in minutes, so that's nice for them. And then Beal and Kuzma are the ones who see the largest increase in usage. So Beal's still my preferred play, but I'm planning on probably having a decent amount of exposure to Kuzma too. For those of you that don't know, I just like to run the domination station first when we get closer to lock, probably around like 5-ish. No, I usually do it around like 4:35, depending on how my day is going, and then just kind of see what it's giving me, and then I make adjustments after that. So I think we'll have some natural exposure to at least Kuzma, Beal, and Gafford here, where I'm not overly concerned about needing to force exposure. But as you can see, we're already seeing solid value from the Lakers and Wizards, which means that for me, it's going to be a slate where I prioritize, hey, which low-owned studs am I going to try to get exposure to? And I don't really have to care as much about the value as long as it makes sense, which it does. We do have to pick a favorite piece of value, though. Next up, we have the Hawks against the Wizards. The Hawks are pretty healthy, but they lost their coach, and Quinn Snyder is now the coach. And so some things might be a little bit different here and there. Something that I do want to keep an eye on for sure. It's really weird for me to see John Collins this cheap, but it's for a good reason. He just hasn't been that great. I am fine playing bigs against the Wizards. They haven't been a great rebounding team all season, and with Porzingis out, in theory, it should be a softer matchup. So definitely a spot that I want to see if there's any bigs I'm willing to take a shot on. So Capella, Collins are the two that are on my radar the most as of right now. DeJounte Murray has had a ceiling game not too long ago. 7,900, still relatively cheap. Is another spot I want to dig a little bit deeper into to see if there's anything that stands out. We can look now at the sim model, see what it thinks. DeJounte Murray. Yeah, it likes him a good bit. It likes Kuzma a little bit more, Paul George a little bit more, but he's definitely on the radar as well for having decent upside on this slate. And it's really just the price tag and low ownership that kind of got me on that train of thought as well. So another guy that is just interesting to consider. It's a big slate, so we're going to have a few of those. But thankfully, they're low enough owned where I can just put like a 20 min on them if I like it and move on and be fine with it. Don't have to overthink a lot of it, for me at least. Next up, we have the Bucks. We have Giannis listed as probable, which is disappointing because that just means the rest of these guys are a little bit less interesting to play. But good for him. Good for him. And then Wesley Matthews has been out for a while. Honestly, the Nets have improved a lot defensively. Just this is just not my favorite spot or favorite game. You can always convince me to take a shot on Giannis when he's going to be low owned, but that's probably the only guy that I would consider on this slate. Next up, we have the Nets. They are more interesting. Edmund Sumner is out. Ben Simmons is still out. And they project decently well, too, which is interesting. The matchup's not great against the Bucks. They're a solid defensive team, but haven't been as stingy as of late. Looks like projection model is liking Claxton a good bit. I don't love the matchup, so I'll need to dig a little bit deeper into that. And also, there's a lot of opportunity. Like the center position's a spot where there's a lot of good players at, and I want to make sure that I am picking the best centers. So he's definitely a viable option at his price tag, but probably not going to be my favorite play. The guys that I do want to consider from the Nets, though, are Mikal Bridges and Spencer Dinwiddie. Bridges was absolutely hot garbage last time out, so need to see if that was just a fluke or not, or if that's just going to be the usual performance. And then Spencer Dinwiddie, interested to just kind of see if he has any upside at this price tag at this point. It's hard. Like, there's not really a star player on the Nets, and you would have to assume at some point one of these guys are going to have to step up, but it's possible that this is just a team that's safe to avoid and move on. So we'll see what conclusion we come to for the pre-lock show. As of right now, I think I'm willing to take a shot or two on Bridges and Dinwiddie, but we'll need to see how the rest of the slate breaks out. Next up, we have the Kings. The big news here for the Kings is De'Aaron Fox. He's listed as questionable. When Fox is out, Davion Mitchell usually ends up starting. But as we saw the last time Fox missed, Davion Mitchell can also go out there and not do anything. He can be a very low usage rate guy when he's out there, and so there's definitely some risk involved there. The matchup against the Thunder isn't very scary, and he's 3K, so I would definitely still consider playing him at that price tag. Next up, we have, the rest of these guys, again, if Fox ends up being out, the guys who see the largest increase in usage are Malik Monk, Harrison Barnes, and Hoyter. So those are the three guys that I would prioritize trying to get at least a little bit of exposure to if De'Aaron Fox ended up being out. And then that wasn't, like, Sabonis obviously has the highest increase in usage when Fox is out as well. So he would definitely be a viable play as well. So all these guys are more interesting if Fox is out. If Fox plays, it's more of just like a one-off type of play where I would consider taking a shot on Sabonis, but just one of the many centers I'm considering on this slate. Nothing really stands out as much for him if Fox ends up playing. OKC is another interesting team because SGA is out. And so when SGA is out, the guys who lead the team in usage are Lou Dort, Isaiah Joe, and Jalen Williams. We talked about this last time out when SGA was questionable, and it actually went pretty well, just kind of forcing exposure to Lou Dort, Giddey, and Isaiah Joe. I think actually one of them didn't come through, but for the most part, just forcing exposure to the guys who had the highest usage on the team worked out. And I'm totally fine taking that same approach. I plan on having plenty of exposure to Lou Dort, plenty of exposure to Isaiah Joe, and Jalen Williams is probably the guy that I'm considering at least matching the field on, but I'll be okay with forcing a little bit more exposure onto him. The only reason why Jalen Williams isn't like an automatic leverage play for me is because of the other value we have in the other games. It's hard to kind of pay for some of this mid-range value when we know that there's other value on this slate when I can play more of like a studs and duds approach. So something I'm still brainstorming and trying to figure out, but I do want a little bit of Jalen Williams exposure on this slate. Hopefully we can make it happen. And then Josh Giddey makes too much sense for me at 7,500 without SGA. Sim model is just okay with him. It does like him, but not a ton. He's on my radar, especially if his ownership stays this low. I'm interested. He hasn't been in the best form as of late, but I want to take the shot here. Next up, we have the Nuggets against the Rockets. The Nuggets. Let's see. Injury news. There's always some with them. Yeah, Jamal Murray's questionable. Aaron Gordon's probable. Zeke Naji's still out. Gordon played 29 minutes on Sunday. Didn't play in overtime, so something to consider. Typically, when Jamal Murray's out, Bruce Brown plays. So that's something to think about. But it's a little bit more complicated than that because now Reggie Jackson's on the team. So it's a little bit tougher to know exactly how they're going to play it out if Jamal Murray does end up missing. All I know is that if Jamal Murray's gone, I'm going to increase my exposure to Jokic and I'm going to increase my exposure to Gordon. Those are the two guys that I know I'll be over the field on. Yeah, we still have to worry about a potential minutes limit with Aaron Gordon, but I'm totally fine with it. Also, MPJ, Aaron Gordon, Jokic, those are the three guys that I increase exposure to whenever Jamal Murray ends up being out. So he's questionable for now, but it's something that I want to keep an eye on. The other thing that has people afraid of this game is the 10-point spread. If it blows out, then it's going to be really hard for these guys to exceed value, but that's why they're low owned. And then the Rockets, I think everyone's expecting the team to be pretty healthy. Jalen Green was not on the injury report. Kevin Porter Jr. was questionable. Jayshawn Tate's still out. No one's really standing out too much. The matchup isn't my favorite. Not a big fan of playing the Rockets in general. Looks like Eason is projecting decently well, but not my favorite plays on the slate because of the spread, because of the matchup, and their price tag's pretty just bleh. Next up, we have the Pacers against the Mavericks. For the Pacers, they are healthy. The Mavericks only have Kleber listed as questionable. Bertans is out. We did see Justin Holiday start on Sunday. But, sometimes Sunday slates are weird, which is why I don't really play Sunday DFS. So I'm not really going to take that too seriously. But when the Mavericks are healthy, I don't really love playing them. I'm fine having some exposure to Doncic. Not super excited about the spot or anything like that. So because of the price tag, ownership, nothing stands out for me. So I'm not really planning on forcing the domination station to do anything with them. Next up, we have the Spurs against the Jazz. For the Spurs, we have Trey Jones listed as questionable. Romeo Langford is out. Isaiah Roby's out. Devin Vassell is still out. And Kim Birch is still out. I think we're expecting that Jones will be on some sort of restriction from a minute standpoint if he does play today, which would still hurt like Bates, Diop, and Malachi Branham from an extent, like a usage standpoint. It would also probably hurt Devontae Graham a little bit too. So these are things that I'm considering. I don't really love playing the Spurs anyway. The spread's also pretty wide. No one really stands out for me too much from like a price, matchup, ownership standpoint. So not really a spot that I plan on enforcing exposure to, but the domination station gives me exposure to it naturally. I'm fine with it. For the Jazz, these guys are popping a bit more, and that's really just because Jordan Clarkson and Colin Sexton are still out. I know Chris Dunn was pretty good on Saturday, so that's good for him. He also saw pretty solid minutes where he played the same amount of minutes that Taylor Horton Tucker played. Either way, the domination station likes them both a lot. I do want to compare them to some of the other value options to see if I feel like they are the best, because we have decent value on this slate. So I don't want to be overweight to like one or two pieces of value when I might be able to spread it out a little bit more. If the ownership stays this high for them, that's going to be a little hard to do, but it's fine. All right, two more games. Next up, we have the Timberwolves against the Clippers. The Timberwolves have Rudy Gobert listed as probable. Taurean Prince is out. It was not on the injury report, so it looks like he'll play. Jalen Noel is questionable, and then Cat is out. Gobert had a pretty good game last time out. Looks like that's because the Clippers like to play small against Gobert. So when that's happening, of course, Rudy Gobert is going to have a lot of rebounds. As long as he can keep that up, I think he has a solid chance of having a solid performance. Let's see, Rudy Gobert. Sim model likes him a decent bit too. I think he makes a lot of sense on this slate, especially if the Clippers continue to play small. So yeah, I think Rudy Gobert is fine. He's probably the guy that I'm not going to say I like the most, because Anthony Edwards is another guy who the sim model likes a little bit in comparison to the other people around his price range. I'm not going to say Anthony Edwards is a leverage play for me yet, because there's other expensive studs I like on this slate, but he's on my radar. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, we got that right last time out. I feel totally fine going back to it again with them being so low owned. So there are definitely potential options for me. But again, this is a big slate. I want to make sure I'm making the right calls. I'm just kind of highlighting potential leverage plays at this point, but we'll dig deeper later. Kyle Anderson, I tell you guys all the time, will never be a core play for me, but he does project well. All right, last game on the slate. Another interesting one with some injuries. We have the Warriors, who have Draymond Green listed as probable. Andrew Wiggins is still out. Andre Iguodala is out. Curry's been out for a while. The Trailblazers are not a good defensive team, and so we're going to see a lot of the Warriors project well today. Let's see, does Sim model like Poole at all? Yeah, it likes him a decent bit, but you know, it likes other guys more. I think Paul George, Jordan Poole, low ownership. I say this all the time with Wiggins and Curry out. I'm always going to take this shot. So he's almost a guaranteed leverage play for me. It's interesting. We've seen that Thibault, who's a pretty good defender for the Trailblazers, has been taking on more of like an offensive or more of a defensive role against the starting major star guard on the other team and letting Lillard have the easier matchup. So something to pay attention to for sure. So it's possible like Claypool might have the softer matchup here, or even like DiVincenzo might have a little bit of an easier time having a bigger game. But these are just things that I'm looking out for. I don't really want to have a strong take against yet. So yeah, I like the Warriors today, but should have some natural exposure to that. And then the Trailblazers, per usual, Ryan Arshadonkono is out, Baji's out, Simons is out, still Nurkic and Winslow are out. I plan on, if Damian Lillard's ownership was just lower, life would be so much easier. He had a really big game on Sunday, so I'm not surprised that he's going he's going to be this popular in a nice matchup. So unfortunately, probably won't be a leverage play for me, but I do want to have plenty of exposure. Oh, I've missed a lot of chats. B-Dubs, good to see you, man. Thomas Dye said, are you doing 150 today? I am. I feel like this 150 train has been treating me well, so I just haven't had a good reason to not 150. Here soon, at some point, we will 20 max again, but probably just going to be the next time we have a losing night. Dave, good to see you. Yeah, agreed. If you all could hit the like button and subscribe, I always appreciate that support. Dave, you gotta check out your screenshot of your win last night. Let me see. What am I missing? I don't want to pull. Yeah, cause I thought I was looking to see. But sometimes I miss things. Like yeah, nice. You took first in 100-player contest, third in one, second in one. Holy crap, man. Nice slate. Sorry I missed that, man. Yeah, I totally, like, sometimes I just like speed run it, and like if I don't see like an ad or something, sometimes I just forget. But nice night last night, man. That's a good one. Thomas got to, yeah, sorry, man. Sorry. Awesome. All right, y'all. Well, that's the slate for me. I like Damian Lillard. I'm fine with Reddish and Thibault exposure. But nothing too crazy for me. All right. Appreciate you all. Look forward to seeing you all on the pre-lock show. Reminder us at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. Hope you all have a great rest of your day. Have a good one. Peace out. Bye.